What's up, everyone, and welcome back. I am here today with a brand new film review, or musical review, I should say, for the previously released Wicked that came out in theaters late last year. Now, I'm going to give a little bit of a small preface here before I go into the movie stats for you guys really quick, and then we'll do the review. Now, I love all movies. However, I've never really been the biggest fan of musicals. It's just for me personally, I tend to want to separate the music out from the story, but the tricky part about that is that the music in musicals, I should say, is really the primary supplement to the story. Like, it's kind of like giving usually not only is it there for entertainment, but it's really trying to set the vibe for the entire story itself and kind of move it forward, and that's the whole idea. So that's always been one of the trickier parts for me about enjoying or getting fulfillment out of musicals for the movie kind of thing, as far as that goes. Now, a quick little statistics for you guys, if you're unaware of the actual like the cast and crew, and I kind of just decided to give credit to the people who made the project itself, because it takes a lot of work, a lot of money, a lot of stuff. So this was directed by Jon M. Chu, and again, pronunciations may not be my thing again, so just be aware of that. So yeah, Jon M. Chu directed it. He is currently mostly known for, obviously, Wicked came out 2024. As well as before that, probably in my opinion the biggest one was Crazy Rich Asians, which came out in 2018. Was probably his next biggest release as well. And then as far as the cast and crew goes, so the main ones that are the reason why people came to see it overall, we got Cynthia Erivo as Elphaba, obviously Ariana Grande as Glinda, Jeff Goldblum as the Wonderful Wizard of Oz, Michelle Yeoh did the Madame Morrible. And Jonathan Bailey did, I think it's Fiyero, if you pronounce that correctly. So a very, very stacked cast and crew stacked director and cast as far as like what came in. Now, and I did see a few behind the scenes, or a few interviews after watching, because I did go and see this movie in theaters. I just wanted to, because it looked good enough to go see in theaters. And I always try and approach everything I go and see in theaters with an open mind, regardless of what critics say, just because really with music or with movies and films, everyone is very, very biased. It's just how it goes. So it's really important to go and see it in a theater or just rent it before making your own judgment. And then it's important, I think, also to really give everything some time to marinate in your head and on your emotional scale, because from the time you see it, there's always that immediate jerk reaction of what you think it's like. And then over time, that may change. And sometimes it's based on interviews you watch, or just based on what comes out about the film or the movie or musical in this case. That kind of it was the driving force behind whatever the decision was that maybe you like or didn't like about the direction of it. So that's the other fascinating thing about movies that I love about it too. So that's the director, cast, and crew. Director and cast. So this is not a full breakdown. I'm not giving you like a synopsis of the movie. This is just my opinion on it. Again, so this is for Wicked that came out last year. Now, I do know that it is based off of, obviously, the Broadway play, which I have not seen on Broadway. I've never been to New York. I think it's in New York, correct? If I'm not wrong. So I've never seen it in person. I know about that, though, overall, for what it really entailed as far as the driving force behind this. So it's really, I think the adaptation stuff of going from a Broadway play or musical into an actual film or musical in this case again, is a very tricky thing to do overall. And I feel like you really, like most films or musicals, again, you have to have the right director, honestly, and they have to have the right vision to make it really special, in a sense. And going into this in the theater, I knew very little about it. I knew that it was, again, an adaptation, or the screen debut, if you will, of the Broadway play. And then, of course, there is The Wizard of Oz, the movie, as well, from back in the day too, with Judy Garland. So I will say I love the intro of the movie, and I'm gonna keep calling it a movie because to me it is a movie. I know it's a musical, but it's, so take that as you will. So don't hate on me in the comments. But I enjoyed the intro of it. I thought it was great. I always enjoy stories when they start off with kind of the aftermath of everything, of what happened, whether it's good or bad. I think that was a really cool way to do it, with Ariana Grande coming in there to the town. I don't know what the town was called, and kind of just, and seeing her reflection after everything was done. And then I do love how they then kick back to the moment where Elphaba was essentially born, how that started, how just because it kind of really just dove right into the first 20 minutes of the movie of how she was born into a non-wanted environment, which I think is very, very important because of how that defined her character from the beginning. I think was great and phenomenally well done. And then you have her having her sister as well, too. And I didn't mention her in the cast, but no, she's there obviously as a sister, but she wasn't part of the main driving force. I mean, I guess she was, but not in the essential part of the movie. So at least not yet. Maybe part 2, which will be coming out now this year in 2025. But again, I thought the introduction, the beginning parts of the movie was done very, very well. And then, of course, they grow up a little bit, and and then they go to school. And then I think it was interesting how Elphaba was not intending in any way to go to the school at all. She was just there to drop off her sister, and that was literally it. That was it. And then and then Michelle Yeoh's character comes in, recognizes her special abilities at that point, not knowing what they would be, but seeing the uncontrollability of it all, and then inviting her, being like, "Hey, you're going here as my special student," basically, is what it seemed like to me. And I thought that was a really well done thing. And I will say this too, the sets on this movie were incredibly well done as well. I feel like it kind of reminded me of personally of the Harry Potter series, where it was like you expect the sets to be huge, but again, the actual authenticity of the sets to pull from various different forms of, The Wizard of Oz and the actual musical on Broadway. Again, I don't know what those sets are like, if they have insane sets on Broadway, like some of them do, but not always. But I think that was very, very, very well done as well. So kudos to the production designer on this, because they did it extremely well done. Because again, you're not really paying attention to the actual sets all the time, and I mean that in a way of like, it's not why you're there to see the movie. It's not like The Matrix or Harry Potter, where it's like the environment sets the tone for that in a sense. It can be, and it did help it, and it really pushed it through, especially when they get invited later on in the film to go to Oz and meet Oz and all that kind of stuff. Like, it definitely was a change of pace from the school to the actual city of Oz, and that was a very big contrast. And it also gave me kind of like, not like kind of like a Willy Wonka vibe, not as far as story, but as far as the sets go. And I always feel like those designers and the people who make the sets don't ever get nearly enough credit, especially in award season for one thing, because as far as that goes. But just as far as like just the eye candy of it all, it was incredible. So that really impressed me as well. In this too. The other thing too that was really cool, I think, was besides the story, it was the actual dancing and the choreography. Like the singing obviously was top notch. Like I don't need to even like really go into the singing, because I will, I guess, now. But basically, Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande. Like Ariana Grande was really pretty much the main. I mean, she was the. I watched her casting call for it, if you will, or her auditions, and it was kind of incredible how even she was nervous and wanted it more than anyone, or at least she claimed it like that. And I'm not really a fan of her music, really, but as far as her commitment to this role and to the singing of it and her dancing and her performance aspect of it, that was also top notch too. I feel like that was very, very well done. And as someone that does not really care for musicals, I feel like the dancing, especially I think on Jonathan Bailey's part, I think it was incredible. Because I've seen him in Bridgerton, where he plays really the most opposite character from this, which is why him being who he was in this role threw me off so much, because I only know him from Bridgerton on Netflix, and he is not in any way like this on there. He's a very proper dude from that time period. But in this, he goes off as this like super duper, obviously, confident guy who's been kicked out of other schools, and he shows up here, and then he's like, "Look at me," but he's a very still humble dude. You can tell. I think it's really cool. I think he was very confident in himself, but still very humble, and that's very hard to pull off as a character. Let alone all the dancing and singing. Like there was the scene in the library, I think it was, where it's pretty much his intro into the movie itself, and his dancing was insanely, like there was I was looking to my wife who I saw the movie with in the theater, And I was like, the amount of choreography and the amount of, just time it probably took to learn all those moves. I mean, it's their job, and I get that, but like, that took some serious effort, and I give him major, major kudos to that. And I feel like it was more. I wish that kind of stuff was more rewarded. Like the choreography might be, but him as a dancer was incredible too. And then as far as the companionship between Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande, where they're obviously are roommates, and they have that that beginning at the beginning of the movie where they're not really at all friendly in any way. Like Ariana Grande is very forcefully, aggressively trying to become friends with everyone that she can to get her to move forward in the social aspect of the actual movie, which is kind of what you can tell from the beginning what she's there for. Like, she's very prim and proper, but she's trying to really move her name forward in every aspect of the school, whereas Cynthia Erivo is very, Elphaba is very, not wanting to be there, not really caring, but there, trying to make the best things for her sister, and trying to make that the best situation for her sister, not for herself. And then there's the scene where they find that, because it takes them a good probably 30-45 minutes of the actual movie to really, I don't say gel because it's not, no, that's not the right word, but it was a scene where where she gets the hat, and then as a joke initially from Galinda, and then she wears it unexpectedly, goes to the dance, I guess, not the dance, but the dance hall, I guess, like where they go to party. She puts it on there, and then Elphaba does her like dance moves, if you will, and then no one understands it, no one gets it, no one likes it. She gets quietly made fun of, like a quiet hazing essentially, and then Ariana Grande steps up her school. I don't know if you want to call it school spirit or not, but just she steps up her respect in that moment, which I think was very, very important to really make or break Elphaba's character at that moment. And because she does her dance moves, and then Galinda comes in there and she goes up to her personally and just kind of like, I don't say breaks her, but she kind of is like, hey, I'm here with you, you're not alone in this. And that was my favorite part of the movie. I truthfully kind of teared up a little bit in that part of the movie, just because I didn't expect it. I knew eventually they would come together, but I didn't think it would be from that moment, from that experience of them having that moment together. So I think that was beautifully, beautifully, beautifully done as far as the character part of it, where they are really going from these two roommates who have nothing in common at all. Really, they don't want to overall, except for outwardly, Galinda's trying to become friends with her and become closer with her, and then that moment happens at the club, essentially, or whatever you want to call it, and they have the moment, and then they're right there, all their emotions, all their outward pushing away, like how they push away from each other, all falls away, and they just become together, essentially. And I think that that's a very obviously important part of the role, or part of their story together. Because after that, they go home, they go to the room, and they have the, I want to say the dance off. It's not really dance off, but there's just the one upping each other of like, or it's really Galinda's part where she does hey, I'm gonna transform you into becoming a better version of yourself, is how I viewed it. And then Elphaba is kind of like, I don't know what to do with this, but I'll go with it. And then from there, I don't know if she can really tell yet if it's worth it or worthwhile. And then the magic starts to happen a little bit more as far as Elphaba's magic kind of kicks off more, and then she gets invited to Oz. And I love how on the transportation side, not to jump ahead, but on the transportation side of when the train leaves and it's supposed to be just Elphaba to go, that she forcefully and playfully gets Galinda on board to go with her together, because she knows she doesn't want to be there by herself and go alone. And I think that part really speaks to the friendship that they bonded as well. Now you enter with, and I get to Oz, I have the introduction there, which I think was great. That dance scene was incredible, and again, all singing was phenomenal as well. And then you go and meet Oz, and I feel like with Jeff Goldblum, I think he's kind of, to me, not the same. He's a variation of the same person, acting wise, in every role he does, which is why people love him. That's why I love him. And he has that charismaticness to him, which is great, and it's why he gets hired on roles. But you can kind of tell, at least I felt like, that when you meet him in the first place, after the theatrical stuff falls away, that he is pretty much just for show, which he obviously ends up being just for show, and then you kind of see Michelle Yeoh's character where you think she's a good person overall in the beginning when she meets up with Elphaba to kind of promote her as a student. But okay, you're gonna be here now as a student because you have this special gift. Let's push that and grow that. And I think that's important too. But then the two of them come together when they get to Oz, and then kind of everything breaks down and breaks loose, and then all the monkeys become able to fly once Elphaba is able, once they learn that Elphaba is able to read from that book, essentially, and then Jeff Goldblum or Oz and Madame Morrible are like, hey, we can use her to do whatever we want as long as we keep her in the dark for the most part for Elphaba, and keep her in the dark as much as we can, but use her abilities as much as we can, and just kind of walk that fine line essentially of how that works. And I think that's where, it's towards the end of the movie, but that's really where everything kind of kicks off and becomes really, really good for me. Like I mean, I was really sold. I was sold on it. Like I was skeptical of the entire film, the first like 10, 20 minutes, because I was like, well, where is this gonna go? How is this gonna play out as a film? Because again, with musicals, for me, it can be all dancing, all singing, and really no story, which is why I have a hard time connecting with them a lot of the time, because it's all depends on how the direction of the direction and the balance. Because again, the balance is the most important part to me of musicals, where it's like how much music is there going to be, how much dancing, and the best example I can show of that where it works out very well is in The Greatest Showman with Hugh Jackman, because that film or that movie really balanced out dancing, singing, and story perfectly. I think my family and I saw The Greatest Showman in theaters like probably 4 or 5 times because we liked it so much, and the music was so freaking good, and the dancing was good, and it was a great storyline. So I think that was really the biggest part of it that worked out. But for this, for Wicked, it was kind of the same thing. Like it was once the scene happened of Elphaba and Glinda like becoming best friends. That's really to me where the movie kind of kicked off and became and elevated itself to being a better movie than it was before. And then once in the very, very end of it, once Elphaba kind of I don't want to say forces herself, but becomes aware that she can fly and gets the broom and then becomes her public character essentially as we know her out of the musical. That's when, I mean, it's towards the very, very end, but that's really where it's like, okay, this is gonna be dang good, like after this, and then you kind of know, like, I mean, I didn't know if it was supposed to be a part. I mean, it said part 1 in the very beginning of the movie, so I wasn't even aware of that they were aiming for it to be part 2. I guess it'd be too much of a story to tell correctly or tell well and authentically to have it not be one movie. So that was really, really well done as well. So again, it took a little bit of time to kick off for me, but the story, the sets, the acting, the music, the dancing, choreography was again incredible and all that, and just the balance of music and story was extremely well done for me. So that is kind of my feelings on it overall right now. So let me know what you think about it in the comments. Let me know what you think about any other musicals that you would like me to review as well, and just what you liked, what you didn't like, if there was things like that, and just overall, just your overall thoughts on it. So hopefully you enjoyed this. If you did, please give it a like. If you are new, definitely consider subscribing. I appreciate it very much, and it pushes these videos out on YouTube much, much more if you do that as well. And otherwise, I'll see you guys all in the next video.